Hello, good morning and welcome to this very special webinar. This is the second in a series of 3 events taking place this week that will count down the Logistics Manager Top 50 service providers as we work towards the big reveal of who will be #1 on Thursday. So thank you for joining us as we count down today from 30 to 11. We're going to take an in-depth look at some of the success stories in third-party logistics in the UK through our exclusive research. You can only discover who made the top 50 by watching these webinars and by ordering a copy of the research itself. You'll be able to see details of how to do that at the end of the webinar. And if you missed our webinar yesterday, you can discover who ranked 50 to 31, as well as hearing from West Coast about how they are transforming their business by going to logisticsmanager.com/webinars. This week would not have been able to happen without our 5 sponsors of the Logistics Manager Top 50. So please allow me to thank Clipper Logistics, Logicor, Logicor, Kinaxia Logistics, and West Coast. For that end, I'm joined today by 2 of those sponsors, Clipper Logistics and Logicor. Later, I'll be joined in conversation with Clipper Logistics Chief Executive Tony Mannix to discover how the retail solutions provider is redefining e-commerce in the UK and how its agile and able philosophy is helping businesses grow with the very latest technologies. I'll also be joined by Charlie Howard, Managing Director at Logicor in the UK, to dig deeper into how the commercial industrial property specialist is helping occupiers grow efficiently, effectively, and sustainably. The 2 parties work closely together, and just this morning, Logicor has let Sherburn 667, its ginormous 666,000 square foot lease distribution unit to Clipper Logistics, which is the largest letting of an existing UK warehouse in 2020. And this letting also represents Logicor's largest UK letting to date. So that's very exciting news on the same day as the webinar, and more on that in due course. It's worth just giving some explanation on what the Logistics Manager Top 50 is. There are 4 elements to the top 50. Firstly, data. We spoke about this yesterday, but for newcomers today, I'll go through this again. This research is based entirely on publicly available data regarding the financial performance of logistics service providers. All figures have been sourced from fully audited accounts filed at Companies House. Where possible, the most recently filed accounts have been used. For companies with multiple divisions, we have used the most recently filed accounts for each division where possible. In some cases, this means that entries are an approximation of performance based on the most up-to-date data available. That gets the disclaimer out of the way. All the data used to compile the countdown has allowed us to focus on one thing, and that is growth. That's what the Logistics Manager's Top 50 service providers is all about. Some rankings look at companies by size, either in terms of turnover or number of people employed or the amount of square foot they have in their sheds, but we've decided to rank the top 50 this year by growth. This allows us to focus on the growth stories that have delivered such performance, where third-party logistics has helped businesses grow, or where businesses have changed markets by making acquisitions. But if you want to know the rankings by turnover, we've got that in the supplement too, freely available to purchase direct. So why are we looking at growth, aside from it being a unique take on performance of the sector? Growth leads to success. The Logistics Manager Top 50 service providers isn't just an exercise in data gathering and fancy spreadsheets. We want to showcase the success of British business. We want to showcase the logistics service providers, the 3PLs and the 4PLs that are helping their customers grow and achieve their goals. That is what being a service provider is all about. Finally, along the way, we'll discover the customers that are growing with their service providers, from high-tech to retail, from export to import, and e-commerce to healthcare. Logistics has it covered. So let's start the countdown. In at 30, and I was asked to play some music with this on some people on LinkedIn yesterday, but we'll stick with the countdown for now. So in at 30, we have DX Group. Turnover was up 7.7% to 322.5 million. DX Group returned to pre-tax profitability at the end of its most recent financial year as post-COVID-19 volumes continued to rise, boosted by an increase in B2C volumes. Growth was primarily driven by its DX Freight division, which saw turnover rise 7% year on year. The division specializes in the delivery of larger and heavier items, including those with irregular dimension and weights, IDW. DX also continues to invest heavily in its organization and will spend 10 million over the course of the next financial year. This investment focuses on expanding its depot network, and 2020 has already seen it open depots in Burnley, Oxford, Westbury, Ipswich, you name it, as well as rollout of over 1,100 new driver handheld devices along its network of 31 service centres across the UK. In at 29 is Maritime Distribution. The Felixstowe-based company saw turnover up 7.8% to 328.7 million. That's just looking at 1 year in isolation. Turnover at Maritime Transport has doubled in the past 5 years, as the container haulage specialist has diversified its business into food distribution and expanded its intermodal offering. In January 2019, it signed a 25-year lease with Segro to operate the strategic rail freight interchange at Segro Logistics Park in East Midlands Gateway. But Maritime will also race up the growth charts next year. In October, Wincanton signed an agreement to dispose of the operations of its container business to Maritime for approximately 1.5 million, which will add a division with a turnover of approximately 60 million to Maritime. So watch this space next year as we see Maritime continue to grow. And at 28 is HW Coates. HW Coates turnover was up 7.5% to 69.7 million. The company specializes in the warehousing and transport of packaged chemicals, with HW Coates incorporating subsidiaries C&V Data Management, Cube Data Store, Dead Files, L&R Storage, Raised Distribution pictured here, and the HasChem network as well. The HasChem network has been trading for 16 years as a pallet network that focused on dangerous goods distribution in the UK, and 2019 saw it move to a 200,000 square foot site in Hinckley in Leicestershire. Raised Distribution was acquired by HW Coates in January 2018, so its most recent financial performance includes a full year of contribution from Raised. At the time, Managing Director Jeff Hill said that the combined businesses will become the largest COMA, which is control of major accident hazards, warehousing provider in the UK. In at 27 is Uniserve. UK turnover at Uniserve was up 8.8% to 243.2 million. While Uniserve had a strong financial performance in 2019 across its core sea, air and road businesses, it said that the trading performance of the container transport operations had been hugely affected by a major contractual issue, of which it was pursuing settlement and seeking to recover in excess of 40 million in damages. So they could have had a much better performance. Uniserve is also targeting Brexit services, where it is expert in customs and has significant coverage throughout the UK of all major gateways, and is well established Dover operations for its road freight operations. 2020 has seen it respond to the COVID-19 pandemic by offering chartered air freight services for PPE, and as well as transporting ethanol, which is a key ingredient in hand sanitizer. At 26 is the German group Rhenus Logistics. UK turnover for the UK division of Rhenus was up 8.8% to 89 million. Rhenus Logistics has expanded rapidly in recent years. On the 3rd of January 2019, it acquired the warehousing and pre-retail and freight forwarding and distribution services provider, Core Management Logistics, CML, while in September 2019, it acquired warehousing, fulfillment and European Express specialists, PSL Group. Next slide, please. Now we move into the top half of the top 50. In at 25 is DAXA. I always struggle to say that one. UK turnover was up 9.1% to 84 million. The UK arm of the German 3PL giant said it had seen excellent progress in its most recent financial year when it came to both business development and market share. Its European exports and contract logistics services both had a good year as it focuses on cross-border services. This came off of 2018, where it opened a contract logistics warehouse in Northamptonshire. while in 2019, it opened a warehouse in Rochdale as well, which was a £14.1 million investment to replace its existing base. Daxia has also signed a 5-year contract extension with the discounter supermarket chain Aldi, which extends a 25-year partnership between the two parties as well. The aforesaid expansion in Northamptonshire provided additional capacity for Aldi's alcohol and general ambient products. In at 24, perhaps surprisingly, is one of the most famous and indeed notorious names in logistics, Eddie Stobart Logistics. UK turnover was up 9.7% to 857.5 million. But 2019 was an eventful year for Eddie Stobart. The 3PL was forced to suspend trading of its shares in August 2019 after it posted a profit warning, a move which led to the departure of then Chief Executive Alex Laffey. This was followed by an aborted takeover attempt by Wincanton, until in December 2019, its shareholders backed an injection of cash from Douglas Bay Capital, which acquired a 51% stake in the company. Since then, it was revealed that the company made a pre-tax loss of some 238.9 million, compared to a pre-tax loss of 22 million in 2018. And this saw former Chief Executive William Stobart return to the family business as Executive Chairman of owners Green White Star. Since then, it has signed a 3-year contract with Morrisons to provide transportation services for chilled and ambient groceries, but it's also reduced its interest in Speedy Freight from a 47.5% holding to a 20% holding, mainly to avoid future payment obligations. 23, and excuse my French, sees the UK arm of French supply chain services giant Bellor Logistics, and I'm sure I've butchered the pronunciation of that. UK turnover was up 9.8% to 146.2 million. The French 3PL is one of the top 25 largest logistics service providers in the world, and you can see the full top 25 in the supplement which is available to purchase. It has 12 divisions across the UK, based in places like Tilbury, Aberdeen, Liverpool. It's also based at Heathrow, and offers services including air, sea imports, exports, warehousing and road transport. In its most recent financial year, the company said that while turnover grew significantly, returns at a gross margin level were squeezed by competitive pressures and a trading environment that had been subdued due to Brexit. In at 22 is Davis Turner, one of the oldest names in UK third-party logistics. UK turnover was up 11% to 191.1 million. 2020 was a slightly unfortunate year for Davis Turner, as it was going to celebrate its 150th anniversary, but for obvious pandemic-related reasons, that didn't happen. But it has improved its performance in lots of service areas, including upping its direct express China rail service, which offers a door-to-door transit time of 20 to 24 days from China into Europe, and is the only direct rail service for groupage, as well as full loads in the UK. It's also used lockdown as a chance to reconfigure some of its warehousing, creating more pallet slots at its Dartford distribution centre. Rounding out this part of the countdown at 21 is Whistle, which continues to make waves in the past couple of weeks. UK turnover was up 11.1% to 685 million. In its most recent financial year, its mail volumes actually declined 8% to 10.2 billion items, but it's in its parcel business that we've seen the most growth, and volumes were up 4.4% in 2019. It's also consolidated its hubs in Rugby and Iver into a single site in Bedford, and further increased capacity and capability to handle both sorted and unsorted packets, and has been installing automation equipment to do so. Its international volumes have been up 16% over the past 3 years, and it's made several acquisitions, including the 2018 acquisition of Spark Response, which has been rebranded into Whistle Fulfillment. It's also signed contracts with the likes of Tesco, Saga, and the amazingly named Shark Ninja. It's worth just considering how the companies that I've just outlined compare in the context of the wider top 50. All 50 businesses have combined turnover of 34 billion, which means they're a sizable chunk of the UK economy. The average year-on-year growth for the Logistics Manager Top 50 is 12.4%, while the average pre-tax profit is just 17.3 million, and the average profit margin is 2.7%. There's clearly a lot of work within this sector to do when it comes to sustainable margins. Right, we move on to the next portion of the webinar, and up next is fellow Yorkshireman Tony Mannix, Chief Executive Officer at Clipper Logistics. Just to give Tony a little introduction for this Q&A part of the webinar. Tony joined Clipper in 2006, and he'll love me for saying that he can boast a career in retail logistics that spans over 30 years. He graduated from university as an architectural engineer and worked in the construction industry before moving into logistics. He's a chartered fellow of the Institute of Logistics and Transport and has a wealth of experience in all facets of multi-channel retail logistics. He's worked for a number of retailers, managed in-house operations, and he has a clear insight into the world of retail. This clear understanding of how retail works is at the heart of Clipper, and it operates as a very focused retail solutions provider. Tony is passionate about the business, the Clipper team, and innovation. He strives for operational and commercial success while not losing sight of the need for outstanding customer care. So good morning, Tony, and welcome to this Logistics Manager Top 50 webinar.
Good morning.
How are you this morning, Tony?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah. So I'm sat in my lounge at home, so I'm in some sort of degree of working from home at the minute, with a very small Christmas tree in the background.
I love it. That's great to see. We'll dig into some of your performance because, as you've seen, you're in the upper echelons of the Logistics Manager Top 50. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. But you describe yourself as a retail solutions provider. What do you mean by this?
Well, we're not a typical third-party logistics business. You know, a lot of third parties are very multifaceted. They'll be involved in chemicals and steel and building materials and other aspects of supply chain. We see ourselves as an end-to-end provider, but for retail. So all of our solutions are in retail. It's at the heart of our DNA. It means that all of our teams focus on retail capability. And that's allowed us to create very collaborative and partnership solutions. So whether it's from the point that inventory arrives in the UK in terms of pre-retail services, right the way through warehousing, transportation, e-fulfillment, returns management. We bought some electrical returns businesses that allow us to deal with electronic returns, right the way through to ultimate disposition of product that the retailer may not need or it might be substandard. We can provide that full end-to-end capability, both in the UK and now into Europe as well. So we see ourselves in a slightly different place to a generalist third party.
Just before I move on to my next question, Tony, I'd just like to remind the audience that there will be a Q&A part of this webinar where both you and Charlie from Logicor will be taking questions from the audience at the very end. So if anybody is watching now, listening to what Tony's having to say, and you have a question, click on the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen and we'll save those questions for the end. But let's continue our conversation. How much of your retail business at the moment, Tony, is handling e-commerce?
In terms of the current analysis, obviously it's grown through a lockdown. So where we are at the minute, roughly 70% of our business now is online related. And that is a mixture of fulfillment, returns management, and the associated capabilities. So it's grown substantially. You know, in 2006, when I joined Clipper, the only bit of online we were doing then was we were helping Woolworths set up their Big Red Book, which was their sort of foray into trying to be Argos. And we helped them. That gave us some capability. We realised then through the sort of 2006, 7, 8 and beyond that actually retailers were waking up to online. So what our view has always been that we're a partnership collaboration type business. And therefore we want to help customers solve problems. And therefore, and as we're working in a common pool of types of business, that a best of breed solution will then fit other customers that we then work with. So actually then we can build long-standing relationships. So as you hit problems, hopefully we provide you the solutions to help you develop. And so we've gone from 2006 with not a lot online to today a much, much, much bigger business, but 70% of our turnover online.
Are there any, you mentioned some of the customers there, are there any success stories that you can share with us?
Oh, stacks. I mean, if you look at, you know, people like Asda, you know, businesses we're very proud of, you know, Asda, we helped them go live with their non-food business in 2008 and we're still doing that activity today. We helped John Lewis with their evolution, and we initially took on their fashion logistics operations as their online business was growing. That then went back in-house because they automated, but they then identified a number of things that they called ancillary, which were things that they couldn't easily automate at the time, whether that was returns management, inbound pre-retail, ultimately the development of our click and collect capability, all sorts of tools that were beneficial to them that we could try and box together and give them capability. I think one of the big things that I would bring out is that we have a bit of a joke with some of our customers, but we do firmly believe it. And because, as you said, I used to work in-house, I used to be on the receiving end of this. If you're the supply chain director in a retailer and you're tasked with plotting the next 5 or 10 years of logistics strategy, unless you're a lottery winner, you're going to get it wrong. Because actually, there's nothing more certain than a retail forecast is wrong. And therefore, if you are going to create a building, work with people like Logicor, develop a solution that suits you, it may well be too big, it may well be too small, but it's unlikely to be bang on perfect, unless you've got some very good history and some very good knowledge, which the likes of John Lewis did with certain aspects of their business, but the ancillary things were a little bit more vague. So what we do is we put customers into a site if they're big enough as an anchor customer, and then we build other customers around them. And that allows us to create this pool of capability to support multiple retailers, but it also gives that retailer flex. So actually, if you look at our website, you'll see a whole mixture of big and small. We put as much emphasis into small customers as we do with big customers. People like Kidley, which was a startup children's wear business. We've been with it since its inception. It's a great business. Sosandar, who announced their results yesterday, growing, doing extremely well. Mint Velvet, we were there right at the start of their journey. So actually, we want to help businesses grow and not let them hit capacity by giving them tools that are appropriate as they grow. So we've got a real mixed bag of fantastic success stories.
Absolutely. And one of those, you touched on it earlier, is John Lewis and its click and collect service, of which we're big fans in the Walton household. It's one of your longest standing customers as well. So how have the both of you grown that together?
Well, the click and collect, or ClickLink as it's called, came out of the unfortunate demise of CityLink. CityLink, the parcel carrier, fell on hard times a few years ago. I got a call from Dino Rockus, who was then main board John Lewis, on Christmas Day morning. In fact, I was in this very room when he rang, and he said, "We've got a disaster because CityLink have gone bust. Can you help?" Well, we're not a parcel carrier. We respect parcel carriers. We can't do 30 million random postcodes every day. It's not possible for our networks. So hats off to those guys. But CityLink had gone bust, and Dino wanted some help. So we reached out to give support. But what we uncovered was how much of what was in that network was going to a John Lewis and Waitrose store. And we then started a discussion with, well, why are you using a parcel carrier to do click and collect into your own stores when you've got your own transport network? Yeah. And their challenge was, with a late cut-off into this evening and a guaranteed delivery to you, a customer, by lunchtime tomorrow, 7 days a week, a normal transport network isn't configured for that. So we set about working with John Lewis in partnership and said, well, why don't we try and create a solution? We've got transport infrastructure. We run the high street. We just don't do it at the minute, next day, 7 days a week, but we could. So ClickLink was a good idea. We tested it that year with a third of the Waitrose estate. We proved that we could create a retail solution model, so not a carrier model. We were able to present inventory to a customer, to a retailer, in a way he's used to, in a cage, through the back door, system linked, so it would automatically update the systems as they delivered. But the beauty of it was to make it easier for a customer like yourself to interact with the store and make it a more joined-up experience, and do it 7 days a week. The trial worked. John Lewis said, we like this idea. Can we create a joint venture? The first joint venture John Lewis has ever done in their 150 years of history. And we kicked that off. We've now got 30 other customers on that same network. And what we're able to say to our customers with that network is, we can give you as a retailer similar capabilities to Amazon, but better in some respects, because you're going to put the inventory into the hands of your customers in your store. So if you want to say to a customer, order it tonight, pick it up tomorrow morning in York, in a store that's of that brand, just like Apple do, it's the best way to immerse the customer in the experience of the brand. And I'm not decrying locker boxes or collection points at all. But if you want to have a real brand experience, the best place to do it is in a store. Now, what we've realized with ClickLink is if we're able to deliver 7 days a week by lunchtime, we can also pick up returns 7 days a week and bring them back and process those returns. Now, that allows us to put Boomerang and returns capability on the back of it, and therefore release inventory much faster, and therefore allow the retailer to sell products at full margin in season, as opposed to it languishing in a return centre. So we can release inventory much more rapidly and then repatriate it. And we're developing at the minute what we call pick from returns flow, which is really linking outbound fulfillment with returns management and really make the inventory work very hard. So we're really, it's fantastic, and we see it evolving. I've got some ideas around how that might further evolve into the future.
Oh, watch this space. I think it's worth just talking a little bit, Tony, just about Clipper as a company itself and the kind of culture within the company. So Clipper started off in 1992, I believe, with just 3 people.
Yeah.
Now you employ over 8,000. I hope I've got that right.
Well, excited today, it's 10.
Wow. Okay, I was way off.
Yeah, but don't worry. But yeah, you're right. Steve Parkin, the executive chairman of Clipper, was one of those 3 men. It was his vision. He was the guy who put his money on it and went out and got a van. And he was doing at the time transportation for fashion. And that grew through the 90s. And we then Steve did his first acquisition in the year 2000, a business called Gagewell, which was a bonded warehousing business. He then bought a business called DTS. He then recruited David Hodkin, our CFO. I then joined the business in 2006. And all we know is retail supply chain. So part of our focus is because it's what we know. And what we've realized is, as an evolving sector, what our customers need are people who can be alongside them through good times and bad and help them on that journey. And therefore, it's about longevity. So we've grown rapidly in terms of people. We've got a culture called Team Clipper. And what Team Clipper's about is that I started to see that as we were growing, there was a risk that an employee could start to become a little bit native. And what I mean by that, if you're working as a manager on a John Lewis site, do you start to believe you're a John Lewis person or a Clipper person? So we created this entity called Team Clipper, and it's a little bit like a Formula One team. The logic is that everyone's got the same tools, everyone's got the same type of engine, the same kit, the same track, but it's what you do with it that makes a difference. And therefore we created this pseudo Formula One team called Team Clipper that's right across our business. But we've also done things to promote talent. We realize as an industry that actually we're only as good as the people we employ. And the problem with supply chain of old has been that schools and colleges don't teach it. If you might get taught a little bit about supply chain with the geography or the economics team, but no one's teaching supply chain. And therefore, historically, it would be Fred ends up working in a warehouse because he can't work anywhere else. Well, actually, we need real talent. This isn't about just throwing boxes about. It's about proper, accurate fulfillment. Because it can be 100% wrong or 100% right. If you order a particular product in a particular size and we send something just not quite right, it's a failure. Yeah. There's no halfway house. It's perfect or it's not. And accuracy is really important. So we now have our own degree course at Sheffield Hallam. You can do a Clipper Logistics apprenticeship degree. We run our own MBA course. We have management training all the way through. But we've also reached out to other sectors of society with our Fresh Start programme. And I don't know if you want me to talk about that, but I'm quite passionate about Fresh Start. Yeah. Fresh Start was an idea, and actually the inception of the idea was a call that Steve, our chairman, got from a charity called Tempus Novo. And Tempus Novo is an ex-offenders charity trying to rehabilitate people and get them back into the world of work. And these are not, serial killers and rapists. These are people who had a friend who was a halfwit and they pinched a car and they both got locked up. That type of person who just was actually on the wrong path. And we were asked if we would help. And that was all around the time when Brexit was kicking off and all around the time when people were starting to think about labour availability. Mm-hmm. So we tasked our group HR director with looking for people in society that we might have overlooked. So we looked at MenCap, we looked at people with physical disabilities, we looked at people with mental disabilities, we looked at ex-homeless people, ex-armed forces people, young mums who couldn't get a job, a whole raft of different charities. and equally Reading Partnership, the long-term employed charity. And what we found is that actually by bending your business slightly and encouraging people to mentor people back into the world of work, you can create some phenomenal success. So I've said we've got 10,000 people. More than 10% of our workforce today has come through Fresh Start. We've got, some unbelievable successes of people through MenCap, people with autism who couldn't work in a normal work environment. When they are mentored properly, helped properly, suddenly they become our best pickers because they want to do the process. We've learned a hell of a lot about how to encourage people back into work. And because people matter to Clipper, because we're a people business, we're looking at things in a slightly different way to some of our competitors.
Tony, I know you described Clipper as agile and able. So what do you mean by this? And how has investment in things like robotics and automation helped achieve that goal?
Okay, well, what we mean by agile and able is they were two words that were fed back to us by our customers. We do a piece of research every year called Brand Health, where we ask our customer base and the trade press and consultancies we work with and so on, and people like Logicor, do we do what we say we do? It's a proper review of us from the outside in and from the inside out. What are we about, and are we really living up to expectations? And in 2008-9, we were described as having agility and ability. And what that meant then, and still means now, is because we're absolutely focused on retail, we've got inbuilt ability. Everybody in our team understands what we're trying to do, and we can share ideas and share capability for the benefit of our customers. But because it's what we do, we can do it really fast. We're able to deploy very quickly because absolutely people get it. And whereas if you were a project guy yesterday working on a project for frozen food, and the week before you're working on a project for building materials, you've got a very wide level of capability. But if someone speaks to us about fashion logistics or fashion online, we get it like that. And it's at the heart of what we do. So that's why we're agile and we're able. And I think the benefit of all of that is that true collaborative style we've got with our customers means that we're constantly sharing best practice. The best example I can give you of agility and ability was a piece of work we were asked to do this year to help the NHS with PPE. From a phone call, we literally were live in a site with a full systems deploy, which normally would be a minimum if you speak to our IT teams of a 8 to 10 week project. We did the whole project in 4 days.
Wow.
And that's what I mean by agility and ability. It's knowing what to do and getting on with it. It's not about having to sit down and process map it. We do that clearly because our customers want that and they want to understand how, but our teams get the work we do.
Absolutely. And finally, whilst we have time with you this morning as well, I wanted to touch a little bit on urban deliveries,
Okay.
which I know have kind of boomed and accelerated in recent years, and particularly recent months with lockdown, we're all getting stuff delivered to home. What are your plans for consolidation of deliveries in urban areas, and how will that reduce things like congestion and pollution?
Okay. Well, I think that's interesting actually, because we've had a view about urban consolidation for quite a few years now, and we've done some work with the Crown Estates in central London. We look after Regent Street and some of the adjoining streets for the Crown Estate, where we consolidate multiple deliveries together and deliver them electric vehicles out of hours. What we think's happened in lockdown, though, is interesting, that actually click and collect was growing merrily before lockdown. And for those stores that have been able to keep trading, it's continued. But what's also happened in lockdown is a massive proliferation of white van man, because actually everyone's at home, as we are probably on these calls now. And therefore, if you want something delivering, the best way to have it delivered is home, because you're here. Now, as we start to go back to work and as we start to find the vaccine start to come in as things normalise, clearly the government is going to have to do something about the level of traffic that's on the road, because through lockdown, it's been a necessity. But actually the proliferation of white vans must be damaging air quality targets and must be adding to congestion. It's just invisible at the minute because not everyone's at work. Mm-hmm. Equally, the government's going to have a big task on its hands to rejuvenate the high street. Yeah. And we see high street rejuvenation really as very important, otherwise city centres are going to die and nobody wants that. And what's happening in cities like York, I live on the outskirts of York, and York through lockdown has seen restaurants spill out into streets. It's become quite a European environment in which to wander around a city centre. And therefore there is a desire to reduce traffic flow, and with park and ride facilities there's going to be a reduction in car traffic ultimately into cities. You can get rid of cars, but you can't get rid of freight. So how do you deliver to a city? So actually, we're seeing that the urban consolidation will become part of some sort of framework for a city, because actually the ability to deliver into a point where then it can be final miled on a bicycle or a rickshaw or a robot or whatever you want it to be, to allow that inventory to be put into a store, to allow click and collect to happen, to allow a brand to interact with its customer better, to allow the reverse flow to happen. We actually see urban consolidation being a really important tool for the government in terms of revitalising city centres, but without going back to chaotic traffic flows in the process. So we are very ambitious about our thinking of it. We do think it plays to the sort of tools we've been creating, and obviously we're building traction with our customers in terms of talking about it.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for your time and your insight this morning. It's been really fascinating to talk to you, and I could talk to you all morning, but we need to move on as well. I have the rest
Thank you.
I have, no, thank you. And up next, before we talk to Charlie Howard at Logicor, we will count down the top 50 from 20 to 11. So hold on tight as we continue the countdown. I'm never going to make a radio DJ. So number 20 is Russell Logistics, perhaps better known to many people as John G. Russell Transport up in Cumbernauld in Scotland. UK turnover was up 11.5% to 68 million. The company spent most of the recent financial year getting ready for Brexit and has become a authorised economic operator within that time as well. In at 19 was our sponsor yesterday, which is West Coast. So if you want to find out more about West Coast, I would urge you to watch our day one webinar on logisticsmanager.com/webinars, where I interviewed Chief Exec Alex Tatum, as well as their logistics director Andy Newbury, and we spoke about how they're transforming their business. Just to reiterate some of the numbers, their turnover was up 11.5% to 2.3 billion in its most recent financial year, and we expect them to rise much higher in the chart next year as it continues to make change to its business and add further logistics and supply chain functions. It works with companies like HP, Apple, Microsoft, and Estee Lauder on the retail side as well, and has been working closely with government on contracts, particularly for Nightingale hospitals. So yeah, do watch the webinar to find out much more about them. In at 18 is Unipart Logistics. Turnover there was up 11.7% to 799.2 million. They've had quite the year in 2019 when it took over the NHS supply chain logistics contract in February of last year, which includes the supply of all products other than medicines to all NHS trusts and care homes in England. So services include the management of 7 RDCs, associated transport, inventory management, a network control centre in Coventry, and it's had to add a further 2,000 new employees to the business as a result of this contract. It's also won contracts outside of the healthcare sector. It's in March of 2019, it won a contract with EDF Energy to handle its nuclear power station in Suffolk. And before the end of the year, it also became Selco's supply chain partner, designing a new NDC to support the its network of builders merchants. In 2019, it focused on backing supply chains as well that develop electric vehicles, and that's a huge area of growth for them, as well as it works with a company called Hyperbat, which is a new joint venture with Williams Advanced Engineering on a new battery production facility. So again, watch this space. That is a company that is primed to rise above the charts. In at 17 is Knowles Transport. Knowles Transport is a family haulier that's been around since 1932, but in its most recent financial year, its UK turnover was up 12.7% to 36.2 million. It's a specialist in ambient foodstuffs, but it spent much of the past few years moving into e-commerce and diversifying its product portfolio away from perhaps that which is more traditionally recognised with a family haulier. Its service portfolio includes contract logistics, full and part load, groupage services. It has 2 million square foot of warehousing space, And lockdown in particular saw it have a 30% spike in volumes, where it was responsible for picking, packing and distributing over 20,000 food parcels for emergency services staff on a daily basis. But it's targeting further growth in e-commerce. In at 16 is another family-orientated 3PL up in Bradford, Expect Distribution. I found a member of the Palatine network. Its UK turnover was up 13.6% to 32.2 million, with its warehousing division in particular seeing 56.1% growth, while its contract logistics division accounts also saw growth of approximately 14.9%. In September 2019, it opened a near 200,000 square foot warehouse in West Yorkshire to help it service 2 long-term warehousing contracts. And such as the growth at that site that it immediately added a 13,000 square foot extension to that to add an extra 2,000 pallet spaces and to handle volumes that were going through there as well. It's been winning contracts with the likes of solid surfaces distributor CD UK, kitchen company Gower Furniture, and packaging firm Hazel 4D. So it's having quite the year up there in West Yorkshire. Here we go, the countdown continues, and there's a name that we might recognise on that slide as well. So in at 16 is Flextronics Global Services, which is part of the $26 billion global electronics manufacturing services group Flex, which specialises in the supply of computer parts and logistics services in the sector. The UK interests of this NASDAQ-listed firm have grown through the supply of warranty parts and reverse logistics, and in 2019 it's been ramping up its customer base. The group delivered 13.8% year-on-year growth despite Sony exiting the UK PC market and ceasing all of its activities with Flextronic in the UK. But however, it comes with a slight stipulation in their UK arm, is that they say that there's much risk involved in the fact that the majority of its trade in the UK is with 2 major customers, one of whom is on a 3-year contract and the second on a 2-year contract with a 1-year extension. So they recognise there's quite a lot of risk in their UK operations there. Its turnover was up 13.9% to 83.3 million. Perhaps a name that we all recognise from home delivery is in at 14 with Hermes, whose turnover was up 12.8% to 860 million. The biggest change at Hermes has actually happened quite recently in 2020 when its parent company Otto Group sold a 75% stake in the parcel carrier to a US private equity firm, Advent International. It will kind of change the nature. The existing management team at Hermes UK will continue to run the business, however. This sale follows a period of considerable growth, unsurprisingly, for the parcel courier, and has expanded its footprint and capabilities throughout the UK, as well as its customer-facing IT capabilities. It's invested heavily in automation, boosting capacity in its Midlands Super Hub in Rugby, which handles, or did handle, it probably handles more now, 1.35 million parcels a day, and will add some 10 new depots, which is the equivalent to over 500,000 square foot of space to its network. One of those coming down the line is the wonderfully named Colossus, which is a 363,000 square foot automated distribution centre in good old Barnsley in South Yorkshire. In at 13, I'm sure Tony will be delighted to know, and he's going to ruin those figures when they release interim results tomorrow, I would anticipate, is Clipper Logistics, with turnover up 15% in its most recent financial full-year performance to 460.2 million. But we already know a lot about them, so there's not worth me saying much more. And in at 12 is Signia Logistics, which saw turnover up 15.3% to 52.3 million. Signia Logistics is an e-commerce and multi-channel fulfillment specialist, and they're the force behind e-commerce brands such as Moonpig, Revolution Beauty, Whittards of Chelsea, amongst many others. They're based in Northamptonshire, and it was born when Dale Pack Holdings was acquired as part of an MBO, a part MBO, part MBI, that was backed by Sovereign Partners back in April 2016. Since then, turnover has increased rapidly from 21 million in 2015 to the aforementioned 52 million in 2019, and that's a 147% increase in 5 years. And it keeps signing contracts as well. It just picked up a contract with T2, which is a Unilever tea brand in the UK, and it's handling its e-commerce in Australia as well. So they are one to watch. Finally, in at 11, we have the Woodland Group, which saw UK turnover up 15.7% to 148 million in its most recent financial year. A specialist in logistics and global supply chain management. It's based in Essex as well as New York, Hong Kong. Offers shipping services, international freight forwarding, warehousing, fulfillment, transport, distribution, the full package. In its most recent financial year, it opened a 85,000 square foot warehouse in Coventry, and it said it had seen significant volume increases across all its departments and successful contract wins within its logistics operations. In 2020, it has spent a lot of time delivering PPE orders from China into local councils within the the UK even, sorry, including some 200,000 protective face masks for Essex County Council, as well as neighbouring counties in the east of England. And I believe it's important to note that Woodland Group are a major sponsor of Essex County Cricket Club as well. So more importantly, tomorrow we will reveal who has made the top 10 in the third and final of the Logistics Manager Top 50 webinars. And we will discover who's made number 1. So join us tomorrow from 10:30 to discover who is in the top 10. But now it's time for me to talk to Charlie Howard, Managing Director at Logicor in the UK, to dig deeper into how its commercial and industrial property specialist is helping occupiers grow efficiently, effectively, and sustainably. Tony's biography is huge, and it will take me an awful long time to go through his achievements within the sector and what he's done. So it's just best for me to kind of welcome Charlie to the webinar and say, hello, how are you this morning?
Yeah, morning, Chris. Thank you. Yeah, we're well. We're well, thank you. Tony, just a quick comment. That your Fresh Start program, I just think it's truly amazing. So I salute you all a clipper on that.
Thank you.
I just think it's fantastic. So yeah, but also all good with us. Thanks, Chris.
Good. It's worth then, I think, just for viewers this morning, Charlie, if you wouldn't mind, just to tell me a little bit about Logicor, who you are you, what do you do, and how do you do it, more importantly?
Yeah, sure. Thank you again for having me. I'm Charlie Howard, UK Managing Director at Logicor, and I've worked in the UK logistics property sector for about 20 years now, just over 20 years. And I've been at Logicor since our formation in 2013. Previously worked at Savills, CBRE and Anglesey Capital. With regards to who we are, Logicor are one of the largest owners of modern logistics and distribution properties across Europe. We've got a portfolio of about just over 600 high quality properties, totaling about 13.6 million square meters. That's roughly about 150 million square feet that are located in the key logistics markets across 17 countries. So here in the UK, we currently manage and own a portfolio of about 36 million square feet. Of that, about 28 million square feet is big box, with the average size of about 300,000 square feet. In addition to that, we've got another 8 million square feet, just over, comprising of about 100 UK industrial estates, with about 1,200 tenants, where the units range from about 1,000 square feet up to about 50,000 square feet. And so our properties are located around the key urban conurbations. They're located around the core logistics locations as well, throughout the UK, especially Greater London, the Golden Triangle, the Northwest, Yorkshire, Southeast, Southwest, etc. But many of our assets are located actually in the heart of the Golden Triangle, where together with the Southeast, we've got about 2/3 of our portfolio. To give you an idea on size, our logistics warehouses are typically larger scale distribution, and they range distribution centres. They range from about 80,000 square feet up to 1 million with an average size of about 300. And we've got units, as you'd expect, on many of the UK's major distribution parks. So we've got 5 units at Derby, we've got 1.5 million square feet at Black Mills, we've got 3 at Magna Park, we've got 3 at Hams Hall, for instance. Customer-wise, our customers include many of the leading national 3PLs, such as Clipper, XPO, DHL, Great Bear, as well as many of the blue chip, many blue chip companies. From the e-commerce sector, we've got ASOS, we've got Pretty Little Thing. From the automotive sector, Jaguar Land Rover, Plastic Omnium, Borea, and from the retail sector, customers like B&Q, M&S, Travis Perkins, Morrison's. It's all about, for us, it's all about having the right properties in the right locations. But key is actually the relationships that we have with our customers, and we pride ourselves based on these long-term relationships. And I think the recent success that you mentioned that we've had with Tony and his team at Sherburn in Elmit is kind of testament to that. I think fundamentally, Chris, what we try and do is we try and leverage the scale and the quality of the portfolio that we've got, alongside with the relationships and the experience that we hold, to provide solutions that our customers genuinely require.
Before I continue grilling you with questions this morning, Charlie, I'd just like to remind the audience that they are also able to ask both you and Tony questions at the end of this webinar when we move into Q&A format. So if you're out there and watching, please do open the Q&A box, get your questions in nice and early. We'll only have a limited amount of time to go through them, so the earlier they come in, the better. That'd be fantastic. But back to you, Charlie. 2020, as we know, and it's been I think the best word is challenging more than anything else as a euphemism. How has the pandemic affected Logicor and the wider market for industrial and commercial property?
Yeah, it's been an extraordinary year, hasn't it? I think it's been a year. It's been a year about working together. It's been more so this year. It's been more important this year than any other year I've ever known. I think it's very, very different to the global financial crisis about 10 years ago. We've got, as I say, 1,300 customers in the UK. We've had many conversations with them, and we've basically stuck to our aim of finding solutions for our customers, about working closely with them to try and deliver on their needs. And we've tried to help out where we can. We've tried to help out where help has been genuinely needed. We've assisted our customers with requirements for additional space, pushing out breaks, and just genuinely being as supportive as we can. The market has remained really strong. We're seeing, the fundamentals are very good, and I think we have to be honest that we're very lucky that we work in the sector that we do. We've signed over 170 new leases and re-gears with our customers so far this year, to give you an idea. And we've worked with 50 different agency teams as well throughout the UK, which is more than we've ever done in any year. This year, we are really delighted to welcome new partners to our portfolio. So we've welcomed M&S, Farm Foods, Oakland International, Taylor Wimpey, Wincanton, as well as extending our relationships with the likes of our good friends at Clipper and DHL and Walkers and various others. One of the big themes of this year, we try to help the NHS as well wherever we can. We were very proud to provide them with a refurbished unit for 6 months at nil rent for the storage of PPE, and are currently continuing to work with them on some potential vaccination centres within our portfolio. And we're delighted to continue to support the NHS in this way. We've worked very closely as a strategic partner with the fabulous charity Land Aid. Land Aid is a property industry charity trying to end youth homelessness. And we've raised about £25,000 now by taking part in Steptober, their Sleep Out, and Land Aid Day. I think also that one of the things that we enjoyed across Europe, whilst we were working from home and in an effort to kind of show our support for the NHS, all of our office, we raised about £7,500 for NHS charities in March and April by making, baking and painting NHS rainbows. And this was something that was actually very close to my heart, and it was a lovely way to show our support. We've been increasing this year our commitment to improve our ESG credentials. we've appointed, excitingly, a new director of sustainability, and have increased our use of the third-party benchmarking, BREEAM and GRESBO as well. But I think above all, it's about working hard, and I think the whole of Logicor team, Chris, this year have been working incredibly hard throughout the year, and we were really proud, we were really honoured to be awarded the 2020 Fund Property Company of the Year at the recent IS Awards, which was voted for by the market, which was voted for by over 1,000 agents. So that was a special time in an extraordinary year.
Superb. You mentioned lots of customers there, Charlie, and occupiers of yours. How has 2020 affected your customers then? It can go from one extreme to the other, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's right. It's key to our success is our relationships with our customers, and I think as we said before, that's never been more important than this year. And I think to be successful, we need to show entrepreneurship. We need to leverage our position as a market leader across Europe, and we need to have the best people. And when I say entrepreneurship, I mean genuinely listening to our customers. I mean offering quick decisions. I mean providing solutions where we can. I think long gone are the days where a landlord simply collected rent and said no. I think that as a European market leader in logistics property, we've got the scale to offer solutions across Europe, which is important. Different sizes, plus the ability to actually share ideas and offer greater collaboration, if you like, across the regions. Our ownership structure means that we're able to be long-term partners for our customers. And I think with regards to people, we've got 50 plus experienced and dedicated asset managers across Europe, providing that kind of innovative solutions, but at a local level. And I think, in my view, that's absolutely crucial with regards to customer service. We had one example, Chris, if I may, on that was working with one of the world's largest e-commerce operators, where a few years ago we only had one warehouse with them, but fundamentally we agreed to do more business together. They were mobilising a large acquisition programme, and we were fast becoming the largest landlord in the UK. But to do that, we needed to establish trust and understanding. So we set about to understand their business. We needed to understand their main business drivers, but we fundamentally worked up solutions for them and rolled them across a number of our assets in the UK. We reconfigured one unit to suit their requirements. We provided another phased occupation. We built an extra yard at a third and a new circulation road at a fourth. And we've now got them in 7 of our UK warehouses. We're also working with them across Europe. We're liaising with them both at regional and European level. And I think that it's a classic example, it's a fantastic example of partnership, basically, where our customer focus and our scale is actually proving to be a real competitive advantage. And that, providing the solutions for the customers, is absolutely key going forward. And that's what we've done with Tony and his excellent team at Clipper at Sherburn and Sheffield as well. Sheffield, we reconfigured a 600,000 square foot warehouse, where Clipper now run the highly successful Pretty Little Pig operation. And as you say, we've just recently concluded the deal on 667 up at Sherburn, which, as you say, I think is the largest letting of an existing building anywhere in the UK this year. So, proof of whether we're doing it well is about the repeat business that we have with our customers, and customers like Clipper, and that will continue to be our focus, Chris.
Absolutely. Can I just say that news came out about 10 minutes before this webinar started as well? So hot off the press.
Nothing like timing.
No,
exactly.
So could I ask Charlie how Logicor has invested in its own business, and what impact has this had on your performance and that of your occupiers?
Yeah, I think we're constantly looking at how we can better ourselves, as many people are. I think sustainability is very, very high on our agenda. That's a big focus of us today, but also tomorrow. And we're very committed to sustainability. We've recently hired a new director of sustainability. And I think not just us at Logicor, but the whole logistics sector, we've got an important role to play here to build a more sustainable future, which will benefit not only our colleagues, but our customers, but society in general. So we believe strongly that by acting responsibly, it's vital for the success, the long-term success of our business, but ultimately will benefit our customers and our employees, as well as the wider communities that are kind of impacted by us and our activities. To do so, what we're doing on that, we've established a 5-year ESG plan starting this year. That includes the use of third-party benchmarking like GRESB and BREEAM. Eva, who is our new Director of Sustainability, she joined us in September. She's got over 15 years sustainability experience, and she's driving this initiative forward and is already working with a number of our key customers. I think that, we're going to be next year collecting and reviewing more sustainability data. I think that's going to be an important part of our business. But also we're going to establish a clear roadmap during 2021 to take us through to 2025 and continuously evaluate that and establish our longer term targets and how we can improve. Basically, we've developed standard green lease terms in our new leases to encourage more data sharing, to encourage more collaboration, if you like, on sustainability initiatives with our customers. And this year we've already produced our first ESG report, acting responsibly for a sustainable future, which was published in September, and that's available on the website. So our customers are demanding more. We are wanting to do more. We want to go beyond the minimum regulatory requirements, and we're doing that for both our existing buildings and our new builds as well. The existing buildings, we're pioneering BREEAM in use across many of our properties, and where possible, we're going to collect sustainability data on all our assets. Projects that are ongoing, deliver lighting and heating upgrade projects, and we're looking to increase our procurement of renewable energy, to be honest. So yeah, there's a lot going on with regards to the sustainability criteria. It's interesting, Chris. It's not just, we're not just doing it because we're being driven by our customers to do it. We're also being driven by our wider stakeholders. But for me, just importantly, it's actually our own people at Logicor who are making us drive forward on that.
Excellent. Before we move on to the question and answer part of the webinar, and I will remind people, get your questions in. We will be taking questions. Click on the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom screen below. Could I ask you, Charlie, what's on the horizon for Logicor in 2021, bearing in mind that it's very difficult to make any predictions in this world these days, and kind of beyond as well?
Yeah, I think, well, 2020 has just been the most extraordinary year, hasn't it, for so many different reasons, as we said. It was described to me quite eloquently, I thought, where we're all going through the same storm, but we're on different boats. And I think that's very, very true. We're going to continue to try and provide the best service we can to our customers and our stakeholders. We've had a lot of successes. We are lucky that the market continues to remain strong. The fundamentals are good. E-commerce continues to grow. Take-up is at record levels. Supply is extremely limited. But our focus next year and ongoing will be focusing on our customers. We've recently acquired about 4.25 million square feet of warehouses and land in the UK, following the acquisition of the platform portfolio by Blackstone. That increases our footprint further and our reach as well. And so we've got even more prime assets in kind of prime locations. It takes us to over 36 million square feet now here in the UK. So we're looking next year to do selective redevelopments, selective developments. Again, many of them will be customer-led. The sustainability piece is fundamental and will play an intrinsic part of our operational, actually what we do next year. But I think in summary, Chris, that we've learned a lot this year. We've worked incredibly hard. I think we're well placed to take the business forward to hopefully to new levels. And I think we're genuinely excited about the future, not just for us at Logicor, but actually for the whole logistics sector as one as well.
Absolutely. Okay, we now move on to the official question and answer portion of the webinar, where we'll be taking some questions from the audience. So brace yourself, Tony, Charlie. We'll see what comes through. We did have some questions reach us before the webinar, and people have been emailing in. And this one is for Charlie to start us off with. So I've been asked a very specific question. Does Logicor have a policy in regards to older stock, and notably those warehouses with poorer EPC ratings?
Yeah, well, yes, is the easy answer. You know, the vast majority of our warehouses are of high specification, you know, located in the right logistics locations. We are driving, when we get a building back, we refurbish it to a high standard and we take it to the market, and that's been where we've had a lot of success this year and in previous years, and I think that will continue. We've let a lot of second-hand buildings where we've refurbished and taken them back up to, you know, grade A quality, to the likes of M&S, as I said earlier, to, you know, to Clipper, to Farm Foods, to Wincanton, to Taylor Wimpey. These were all big warehouses that have been refurbished and previously occupied. The EPC, we are driving the EPC on them all. We are in the process of refurbishing a unit in the Midlands at the moment, where we're putting in staff showers, we're putting blinds on the windows, we're putting in LED lighting, recycled carpets, we're putting in an air source pump for the offices, you know, cycling kit and lockers, and all of this helps the EPC. And actually, on that one, we're delivering an EPC back up to a B. So we're targeting C. We're hoping to get better than that, and we are moving. As I say, that's a very good example with regards to getting us to a B EPC rating.
Absolutely. Quick question for Tony, if you don't mind, Tony. I know you're kind of curtailed because you have your interims tomorrow, so there's things you can't say and give things away. But what is on the horizon for Clipper in 2021?
In terms of where we are, we obviously continue to do more of what we've been doing. I think what we've seen through the period of lockdown is a number of our customers looking to sort of re-engineer themselves to a degree. The growth of online has caught some customers by surprise. I think a lot of our customers have grown sort of 3 to 5 years ahead of where they thought. So actually, that growth on online is now really accelerating. And if you were not as ready for the peak as you could have been, we're doing quite a bit of work now with customers getting them ready for next year's peaks. We're doing quite a bit of re-engineering, of helping businesses re-engineer where they may be seeing that the high street isn't as strong as it was, but online now is. And therefore, even if your business has gone through a CVA and has reduced some of your store portfolio, you can't necessarily reduce your central infrastructure unless you can find somebody to utilize that space alongside you. And that's where our collaboration and shared use model comes in. We've got further big ambitions into Europe. We've now got sites in Poland and in Germany, but we've got interesting thoughts on how we could further extend that reach into Europe and help our customers post-Brexit. So I think we've got very big ambitions. You know, we see that what lockdown's done is accelerate online. We've been building a very successful online level of capability, as we said, since 2006. So we do believe we're able to assist a lot of our customers on that journey. And we're also reaching out to businesses that are evolving. One of the things that was interesting was some work we did with Drapers, the fashion magazine, last year and into this year, was a thing we created called Guide to Growth. And what we realized was that if you were a retailer of old and you were a graduate recruit in that entity, you would grow up through retail and you'd almost serve an apprenticeship. If you decided this weekend that you want to start developing Chris Walton socks, and you found that you can buy some, you know, socks made out of bamboo that you want to start to sell or whatever it happens to be, you could create a website. You could use your iPhone to drive social media marketing. You can rent cloud computing. You can use all of your family in your, you know, the garage or wherever you are to pick and pack. And if you're successful, suddenly you need help. Well, how do you know that we exist? So what we're doing is reaching out to the industry to make sure that people understand the types of services that are available, particularly in the shared use world, that as they grow, we can help them on that journey. So we are very much pushing in the world of changing retail. So we are far from slowing down. This has been a real year of drive.
Absolutely. I've just had a question in from somebody saying that they want to buy some Chris Walton socks already.
Yeah, well, feel free.
Quick e-commerce works. Yeah. Actually, coming back, I've also had a great question because we touched on Europe there as well, and we have Brexit coming in just a matter of weeks. And big thank you to Alex Tatum, Managing Director at West Coast, who was with us for the webinar yesterday, who poses this question. Are you seeing Brexit warehouses driving demand and changes in the location of warehouses? And I don't know if both of you would want to kind of tackle that as a thought.
Well, shall I give you my sort of perception from a customer perspective, and then Charlie can answer it from a physical perspective? So I think what we've been doing, we as we've said, we operate in the territories in which we exist. So we're not a freight forwarder. We don't bring shipping into whichever territory, whether it's the UK or Central Europe or Southern Ireland. But we take over that inventory on behalf of our customers at the point it arrives at a port. So we do inbound pre-retail and all the way through the services that I've talked about. So what we've realised in Europe, and we've now done this with a number of our customers, is that they could potentially operate either side of the divide if they, at origin, route the inventory to the correct location. And therefore, literally, we can run, and we've done that now for 2 or 3 of our customers, where we can operate for them in Europe and in Poland, Germany and Poland, as well as in the UK, and effectively point the inventory at those customers in those areas, and only cross the divide really by exception. So that is something that we're pushing quite strongly. We believe that that's quite a useful way to protect people in a period of confusion of really what's happening. And obviously, we don't do much true cross-border. We do some transportation cross-border, but fundamentally, we're operating within territory. So we're in a slightly different place, but our customers are very much international, and therefore helping them with how do their international operations operate, and splitting at point of origin may well be one of the ways to achieve it.
And for you,
Charlie?
Yeah, I think a number of our customers have filled any grey space they've had within their warehouses, partly as a result of Brexit. So we've certainly seen more kit within our warehouses. Savills did an interesting, very, very good presentation last week at their Big Shed Breakfast, where they reported take-up year to date was about, I think I've got my scribble here, 46.8 million square feet take up this year. Now the previous record was 37 million, to give you an idea. So it's nearly 10 million higher than the previous record. But interestingly, of that, only 5.5 million was signed on leases less than 5 years. So what we are seeing is we're seeing longer term leases signed. We've signed 20-year leases with no breaks this year. And I think we're seeing that for a couple of reasons. One, there is a distinct lack of supply out there. So occupiers are locking down on the right assets in the right locations. I think there is considerable capex needed on these warehouses with regards to automation and others, and therefore the longer term lease enables one to amortize it over a significant period. Yes, we are seeing we've seen a little bit of increased volume, I would say, with regards to Brexit, but the vast majority are pushing ahead with strategically long long dated, long leased warehouses in the right locations. And I think that's only going to continue.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Well, I would just like to thank both of you for your time this morning. You've been very generous with it, especially as we're right in the thick of the Christmas peak, I would imagine, Tony, as well. So yes. You're a busy man. I'm glad to get you in a waking moment more than anything else. December. Charlie, it's been great to talk to you this morning as well. Really appreciate your insights and your help and your support for the top 50 as well. It's superb.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
So just let me remind everybody that our countdown continues from 10 to 1 at 10:30 tomorrow with another packed webinar as we round out the Logistics Manager Top 50 Service Providers Week. We'll conclude the countdown and we'll be joined by Simon Hobbs, who's the Chief Executive at Kinaxia Logistics. And I'll discuss with Simon his approach to strategy, to growth and investment. And we'll also discover how Kinaxia has grown through acquisition, what factors has led to its growth and how it will achieve its goals. I'll also be joined by Descartes Vice President of Sales and Country Manager for the UK and Ireland, Paul Sweeney, for a wide-ranging conversation about how Descartes is helping businesses transform their operations with technology. But it's just worth me reiterating that the first place you'll be able to find out who ranks from 10 to 1 in the Logistics Manager Top 50 Service Providers will be on our webinar at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. We're also going to have the Top 50 Service Providers 2021 next year, and we're already receiving an awful amount of support for that. So do get in touch with our sales manager, Ollie Filmer, as soon as possible if you want to support Top 50 Week in 2021. And also, if you want to purchase a copy of the Top 50, do email Daniel Jessup, daniel.jessup@carbomedia.co.uk. His email's on the screen, and that way you can have your own copy of the Top 50 research to look at and to use and to benchmark your own operations. So thank you to everybody for your time this morning. Thank you to Tony at Clipper, to Charlie at Logicor. It's been a fascinating webinar, and I look forward to talking to everybody tomorrow. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.